Welcome to the Spark It podcast with Patrick CJ and Kimaru Baby. Today we are diving into a very big question. Is there a relationship without love? If there is, are such relationships broken or are they just different? We assume love is the foundation of meaningful relationships, but what if that is just a social construct? Today, we'll dive into the historical and cultural views on love and relationships, modern examples of relationships that literally function without love, and also whether love is necessary or if simply we have overhyped it. So let's get right in. Kimaru baby, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited, honestly, to be shooting this episode with you. And I can't wait to see what we come up with, honestly. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm fine.
Amazing, amazing. So let's start uh, with a big one. What do
Mm-hmm.
we mean when we talk about love?
Nice. That's like a really interesting question.
Yeah,
Do you want me to give like my personal view of what I think love is?
go for it.
Oh wow. Damn, I think I wasn't even prepared for that. But wow, that I think love is such a wide topic, honestly. But what I would think love is in a few words, it's those deep feelings you have for somebody, and it's also how it's not just about the feeling; it's also how you show this love to this person. So it goes down to how you treat them, what you
Right,
say to them, like so what how you communicate with them. It's more of how you treat them, how you communicate with them, and what would be the third one? I think those two. Those two are
right,
like mostly on top of the list for me. Treating how you treat a person and how you communicate with that person.
right.
Yeah. Apart from
So,
just the fact that you'd be like, oh, I love this person or something of the sort.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, love is just a feeling or an action.
It's both
Right.
combined, feeling and an action. So it can be a verb and a what? What do they call them?
A noun?
Yes, both. Yes. It's actually more of a verb, I think, because it's more of the action, honestly. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think love is always essential in relationships? Or can duty, respect, or shared goals replace it?
Oh wow. Oh my god, you're asking like really interesting questions. Honestly, you talk whether is it necessary or it's because of duty and obligation. Damn.
Yeah.
I
Or even
I
shared
think
goals.
on goals.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it depends because for me, I would say in my personal experience or the things I have seen happen around me, I feel like there's people who do it because of shared goals. There's people who've done it because of they feel it's an obligation,
Right.
and then there's people who it just happens.
Right.
Yeah, so it could be all those actually, depending. I think
S-
it's very circumstantial. It depends with who is participating in this thing called love and
mhm,
with whom.
mhm, mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, so, so what you're saying is essentially that
Mm-hmm.
duty, respect, and shared goals replace love or can replace love.
No, I don't think they do. It's like they sort of coexist together. But for some people, I think they do. Because I have seen there's unions I've seen of people. Maybe they started. They started a relationship when they were sort of maybe in love, and then
Mm-hmm.
at some point they fall out of love, but maybe they had started like a family and they have kids. So
Mm-hmm.
because they have already fallen out of love, so duty and these other things kind of replace the love, because maybe you are feeling obligated, like, oh, I have kids, I have to take care of these kids. So some
Right.
people even stay in marriages and they're not happy, or they're not feeling loved or anything of that sort, but they're there for that shared goal of, we are raising a family, or we have these kids we need to take care of, and you don't want to separate and have them like do the co-parenting thing. So they're just there.
Right.
So I guess at some point it can replace depending on context also.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of context, actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's good you have raised it that. um,
Okay.
so some cultures
Mm-hmm.
um, view love as practical relationships
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
rather than emotional ones. Do you
Ah.
think that approach is better?
Hey,
Yeah,
I
like
think.
literally, because just like you've
Mm-hmm.
said, duty, respect, shared goals, and stuff like that.
I think maybe we jinxed it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think we jinxed it by watching a lot of soap operas. Because honestly, hear me out. I feel like at some point, especially in traditional African communities, a lot of times you never had to get married because you love a person. It will be maybe like a family has identified maybe a girl in another whatever, and they're like, yeah, we think this would be suitable for our son, or
Right.
vice versa. Yeah, and then it didn't have to be like, oh, there's the love, the whatever. It's like you just come together and you go love each other if you have to love each other. Wherever you go start a family, and if there is love, now that's up to you. But I feel like at that point it did work for that particular point. But right
Right.
now things did change a lot. We embraced like this, we like, I don't know, I feel like love or that kind of whatever became so modernized, or marriage for the sake of this conversation, it became
Yeah.
a bit modernized, and we also borrowed a lot of cultures from everywhere. So at
Yeah.
this point it's like the concept of love was brought into the conversation, and now it's like, oh, I don't think I feel him anymore, or for him to to marry me, I have to feel sort of these very intense feelings, and
Yeah.
all these kind of things. So I feel like things have changed because
Yeah.
we have borrowed a lot, especially for the African context. We borrowed a lot from outside, and
Yeah.
we've embraced that and made that to be what we now know of. Because even, for example, right now, there's even places like churches that if you are not married at the church, it's not
Mm-hmm.
recognized. Yet even before we embraced, for example, this whole idea of marriage in a church,
Yeah.
Africans used to have their way of marrying off their daughters and their sons.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like with love and all these things, we embrace other cultures,
Mm-hmm.
we borrowed a lot, and now
Yeah.
it's more of, yeah, it's more of not necessarily like, oh, I have identified a guy somewhere I like, and now my family is like, yeah, that's it. It's more
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
at a personal level, what do I want as Kimaru, how do I feel about this person and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very different, honestly.
Right. That is
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. So when you speak about this approach being different,
Uh-huh.
although you haven't been able to mention specifically which one you would think is better.
Oh, which one I think is better?
No,
I feel like, uh-huh,
yeah, I'm just
I
wondering
think,
if
uh-huh,
it is better to approach relationships as more
mm-hmm.
like, practical partnerships rather than just emotional ones. And yeah,
Mm. Okay, honestly, I feel like what with that, if those are the two choices you're giving me, emotional or practical, I feel like practical would, for me, would make a lot more sense.
right.
because I feel like love is just more of a feeling, but there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that go into a relationship. Okay.
Right.
There's the communication, there's, for example, whatever you said, the shared goals, like what do
Yeah.
you want for yourself in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, and stuff like that. Do you even want to have kids and stuff like that? And I feel like with things like even having kids, it's not just about a feeling. It's about
Yeah.
how are we even, for example, gonna raise these kids. What type of life do you want to give them? So again, at the end of the day, I don't feel like love would be enough in this context. So I feel
Right.
like if those are the two choices I'm getting between the feeling and the practicality part of it, then I would go for how practical it is for the two people involved in this context.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, but what do you think though? Yes, please answer your same your own question, like between those two, feeling and practicality.
So,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, for me, how I view love is mostly from a Christian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I view mostly from that lens.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a Christian lens, love is at the heart of everything.
Yeah, true.
Um, whether it being what we do, our relationships with others, and so forth, and all these things, love is at the heart of
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
because when you look at the Bible, basically, the message is summarized into two things: love God,
Mm-hmm.
love your neighbor as yourself. And when you narrow that
Mm-hmm.
down to one thing, the lesson
Mm-hmm.
is love.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so love is like at the center of
Yeah.
of
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I think for me, I
Mm-hmm.
would view it from that perspective. Now, on whether it's more like a practical partnership or an emotional one, is where it can be a hard bargain to pin down.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, for example, I look at love
Uh-huh.
more like a principle rather
Mm-hmm.
than just an affection that eventually will go away, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
a feeling that eventually, because it changes, right? Like how
Yeah.
you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
now might not be how you'll be feeling the next 2 minutes or one. um,
That's true.
Something like that. So I think I view it more like as a principle. um, yeah. And you're a Christian, so what is
Mm-hmm.
your take on this? when,
No,
when
I feel like, of course. Sorry, you're saying
no, I was like, when you put on your Christian
the
cap.
Christian heart.
Yes.
No, I feel like it definitely does supersede a lot of things, okay? But also, because we live in this world,
Yes.
and also we have to be very practical about stuff. I feel definitely it is at the top. As a Christian, it
Right.
is at the top. But also, if we are narrowing it down to, for example, now you are thinking about like a lifetime commitment with this person, I
Hmm.
feel like you also have to think about it in a very practical sense.
Right.
So you have to make sure your love is enough. It's
Right.
outpouring. It's like, it's shaken. And what do they call it in the Bible? And running over and whatever. So that, because
Overflowing.
I feel like, yes, overflowing. Because
Yeah.
if it is overflowing, then it becomes easy for it to also be practical,
Right.
because you see the way they say love yourself, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So at
Yeah.
this point, if you love yourself and it's overflowing, then it's easy. For example, if you're sharing a life with somebody, for example, you
Hmm.
also want to start a family or whatever, it's easy to pour onto them in the
Yeah.
different ways,
Yeah.
whether it's the things you do together, how you want to raise a family and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I would say probably from a Christian point of view.
Interesting.
So it has to be really overflowing. Yes, you have to make sure you keep replenishing.
Actually, it's very interesting because when you when you look at it from that lens, like from the Christian
Mm-hmm.
lens,
Mm-hmm.
love is necessary for any
Yes,
relationship.
of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
because it is the foundation for any.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when you move away, because not everyone is a Christian, right? So
Yeah.
so when you take off that Christian
Uh-huh.
hat, then you
Uh-huh.
realize that, oh, love is complex. Maybe it's not always necessary for a strong relationship.
Yes. And I have
So
seen that somewhere. Yeah, I've seen people get into relationships for convenience,
hmm,
like for what they could get from
explain
the
that more.
relationship, not because okay, like for example, I've seen people who have gotten into a relationship for convenience, for the things they can get from this other person. Like for example,
Yeah,
somebody has gotten to an age, like let's take an example of guy X. Guy X has gotten to an age where they feel like, for example, now they're ready to settle down. Okay. And now at this
yeah,
point, it's
yeah,
like they are really, really ready, and they just choose. Actually, it's called the. I've had people talk about it online too, but I've also seen it happen.
yeah,
The taxi cab theory,
yeah,
something like that. Like it's like when you're waiting for a
yeah,
taxi, and then the next one that you just comes, and you hop on. So for
yeah,
guy X, they're ready to marry and they're ready to settle down and have children or whatever. So they don't
yeah,
take too much time courting or doing too many things. The next girl they find, even
yeah,
whether they love them or not, they just, if that person is available, they go with it. And then also
yeah,
I've seen also other people who also like get into relationship for convenience. For example, maybe somebody is feeling lonely, and then there is this person who can
yeah,
give them a shoulder to lean on, or there is this person they have seen
yeah,
potentially who is so good at something that can fulfill a gap in their life. It doesn't matter what gap.
yeah,
So they are
yeah,
like, yeah, they get into a relationship with you. You think like this person really cares and loves you, but the energy is not the same. You definitely maybe totally love
yeah.
them, but for them, they're there because of the benefits they can get from you. That's true.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes,
So
happens every day actually. For real.
I mean, I really don't know, but I guess there are cases like that that do happen. I think I wouldn't deny
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, yeah, but it's just kind of interesting. Yeah, can we assume that those relationships do not have any bit of love in them at all? Or maybe they do, because there's again, for example, the
Mm-hmm.
taxi cab theory that you talk about, which
Mm-hmm.
is that a guy basically
Mm-hmm.
picks up the first girl they meet
That's available.
when,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
They
when
are
they
ready.
decide to marry.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But also there is this concept
Mm-hmm.
of love at first sight.
Hmm. Then if you introduce
How do you
that, it
balance that?
becomes oh, no, no, no. Those two things can actually exist at the same time for some people, but for others, they can exist separately. Like there's one person who will probably go with the taxi cab theory, and then there's another one who
Yeah,
might also be the love at first sight. There's those two.
right,
So it works.
right.
But then also, I kind of feel like there's something you're trying to say about being in a relationship and there is no love. You can be in a relationship and
Hmm.
there's the love that is there is one sided.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you're the one who loves your partner, but your partner is, they don't necessarily love you. So what keeps you guys together and surviving and thriving is that love that one
yeah,
person shares. So and a lot of times what happens is there's a likelihood of the person who loves the other one and the other one doesn't love them. This one who loves
Yeah.
this other one will be the one who will always
Yeah.
be overcompensating for the love that is not given from the other side. So you could also be in a relationship where the love is not mutual, and then the person who
Mhm.
gives his
Mhm.
love, they work too hard for that relationship to
Mhm.
to sustain itself. They work too hard because they have to keep pouring and
Mhm.
compensate for the love that is not given from the other side. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, it happens.
There are a lot of relationships like that, though.
Right? See,
Like
you
these
agree
days.
with me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right? Yes. Yes. Well, for the first time in a while, we are agreeing.
No,
It is
but
true. It is
thing
true.
is,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm not saying that all relationships are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, sometimes it can appear as if the other person does not love you,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the thing with those
Mm-hmm.
kind of relationships that you described.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can give
Mm-hmm.
you the illusion that the other person does not love you, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe the person is going through some stuff in their life at that time. Not necessarily that they don't love you, is that they're going through some stuff that maybe holding them back from being able to, show you the love like you would expect them to.
Okay, there could be that, but sometimes, if somebody has been consistent enough for a long period of time,
Yeah.
I don't know. At this point, you can't excuse it. I feel like there's that whatever you said could be true, but a lot of times with the ones I've said, like there's the one that is one-sided love. Most of the times, it starts as if these people can manipulate you to some extent to feel like they actually
Yeah.
love you. So they create sort of, well, how it starts.
Yeah.
They create an illusion of like they love
Right.
you. So they put you in that comfort zone of you feeling you are loved, and then of course you reciprocate the
Yeah.
love, but in essence, maybe they were doing
Hmm.
that, as I said, because maybe there was something they really wanted from you. So in the beginning,
Yeah.
before you realize it, you would have been maybe love bombed. So you would be thinking that you actually loved. Okay. But eventually,
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
time you come to realize it's a one sided love, you've given so much. And also, at some point now, because the pretense, they see, of course, they were pretending at first. So at some point, the
Yeah.
pretense, they stopped with the pretense, and now they become, they embrace their true selves. So, realize, eventually, you realize, like, oh, wow, what's happening? So apparently, they definitely started you off as if they loved you. And then at some point,
Yeah.
they dropped the ball, and now you get to your senses, and now
Yeah.
you realize it's a really one-sided love. Yeah, so that does
Yeah.
exist. Like people do that a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how
That's
do
how
you
you end
deal
up
with
in a
something
one-sided
like that?
live. What are you waiting for? Honestly, I feel like after you realize, for example, that you're going through such a situation, and this person doesn't
Hmm.
really love you and doesn't care for you, and maybe there is something they just
Yeah.
wanted from you, you should be able to just
Yeah.
pick yourself up and leave. Because I don't feel, if that's how that love is and it's that one-sided, I don't feel like it will ever change. It doesn't change. Actually, it
Right.
never changes.
Right.
Yeah, it never changes.
Right.
So they'll always be
Okay.
giving you breadcrumbs, and if
Uh.
that's not the thing you want to subscribe to, then you better leave.
Mhm. Don't you
Mm-hmm.
think that people could also try like working things out though before just deciding to leave?
Hmm. You can. There's.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between
Especially.
when you have a normal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially,
Yeah. Yeah. Continue. Continue.
I'm saying I think there's a difference between having a normal healthy relationship and going maybe through. an obstacle or something, and then maybe going through storms in a relationship, and at some point you guys uh talking about it and
Mm-hmm.
trying to work things out, and that and now and then it's also different for the kind of whatever I've given. The kind of example I was giving was very specific.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody love bombed you because they wanted something specific from you, which is why you guys got into a relationship. And
Yeah.
then at some point, because they don't need to sugarcoat anything anymore, they now show their true colors because they were not there for
Yeah.
the love. Maybe they were there for that specific thing they wanted from you.
Yeah.
For this particular relationship, once you realize that that's what is happening, for me, from a personal perspective, I wouldn't recommend trying to work things out, because from the very beginning there was no love. It was because of something specific that this
Yeah.
person wanted from you, so you can't really change this person. But if it's just a normal relationship where love is reciprocated and you're going through a rough patch, then I
Yeah.
mean, by all means, sit down, talk about it, and
Mm-hmm.
find ways you could, find yourself to each other again. But if it's the other one, it's not worth it. It's gonna drain you. I sound like a relationship
Interesting.
coach. No, but it is true. Oh
So,
yeah.
um,
Mhm.
so historically,
Mhm.
marriages weren't about love. I mean, not always.
Mhm.
They were
Yes.
about survival, alliances,
Mhm. Mhm.
oh, family duty.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think those relationships were more stable?
Honestly, I don't even know whether I can speak about those ones because I don't. I don't know. I feel
Because
like.
let me give you this
Mhm.
example.
Okay.
For for example, my grandma,
Mhm.
uh, her marriage to my granddad was an
Mhm.
arranged marriage.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and they really lived very long together until when
Mhm.
grandpa passed on. Um,
Okay.
and there are very many other cases like that, basically, in
Mhm.
my community that I could point to. Uh,
Mhm.
but also cases basically where marriages were organized, for example, as a way to maybe bring peace between warring communities, like communities that
Mhm.
are fighting each other. And
Yeah.
so marriage is
Mhm.
used as a way. And I think like that was used a lot,
Mhm.
actually, in many parts of Africa, like in the kingdoms,
True. Mhm.
whether it
Mhm.
being the Zulu kingdom and others. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you necessarily might not really be in love with that person or something, but
Uh-huh.
no, there was something you said earlier, which is like you guys maybe go and find it out because you're just taken to someone.
Uh-huh. You figure it out.
But
Yeah, whether you and find out if
yes,
you need to love each other.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, like they have been those kind of relationships, and for some
Mhm.
reason some of them have really been very stable, some of them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think but what do you think about them?
Okay, honestly, I feel like if, for example, I think there was a time we were talking about who should propose and who should not propose and all that. I feel also with these types of
Yeah.
marriages, when they used to happen, people didn't know any different.
Hmm.
Like that was a social construct at that point. Like, we're just gonna identify somebody for you, and we're gonna arrange this marriage for you, and we think this is who you should marry because either they'll give you status in the community,
Yeah.
they'll give you children, whatever, whatever. That was
Yeah.
what was working then, and they didn't know any
Yeah.
different. There was not this whole thing of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I need to love somebody, I need to see you to find out what they love, what they
Mm-hmm.
want, should I be hiking with them or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
There was not that. So I
Yeah.
think the reason why it worked then,
Yes.
or maybe, yeah, it worked then and might not work now, was because they didn't know any different. That was it. If your parents said, like,
Right.
you're gonna marry from this household, and we think that girl can give us
Mm-hmm.
this, or we think that man would give us some wealth or some status in the community or
Yeah.
whatever, I think it just worked, because I mean
Yeah.
that's all you know, that's all you're exposed to, so it had to work. And I feel like going
Yeah.
back, because
Yeah.
I've read stories, and I've also heard, even also from my like grandparents or people they knew, I feel like those marriages used to
Yeah.
be, they used to be stable in the context of, it's like their roles were so defined, they were so defined at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the man was supposed to provide for the family, that was his role. The woman was supposed to sometimes just stay at home and give birth to children, and that was her role, and take care of the household. So it was almost like really, really straightforward. And I feel like it worked for them at that
Right.
point, because they were so, everything was so defined. This is how we do it. This
Mm-hmm.
is also your role as a wife, this is your role as a husband, or those types of relationships. So I think it was stable for sure, because of how the social construct was
So,
at that particular point.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
from were these kind of marriages there within the Kikuyu community historically?
Yes, they were there, that's what they were doing. They were arranged marriages, by the way.
How are they?
I think it's almost the same for almost all communities, eh? And I think I'll have to do a bit of reading on that, but yeah, there was arranged marriages even in the Kikuyu community, honestly. Yeah, it's the same, it cuts across.
Were they stable?
I don't know if they were I don't know. In terms, honestly, for stability and all that, I can't talk about it honestly, because I didn't experience it firsthand. But I think for the people who did it, because of the stories that have been passed down, it seemed to have worked out. I feel like right now people keep divorcing, but
Hmm.
then the stories we hear or that have been passed down, we would hear somebody was married like 50 years, and whatever separated them was death from their partners.
Yeah,
So it kind of
yeah.
seems to have worked for them, honestly. So yeah, that's what I would say. But right now,
So,
people are getting married, and then 2 years down the line, they're like, bye bye. Too
yeah. And by the way,
too much free will.
yes, actually, just speaking of that, you would
Hmm.
think that right now, with the level of freedom, rights, access to information that
Hmm.
we have, we wouldn't be
Hmm.
having um, arranged marriages. But apparently,
Hmm.
actually,
Hmm.
today, arranged
Hmm.
marriages still exist.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
There was a time actually. Uh-huh. There was a
Do,
time I
do you
was
do you
watching a
think?
TikTok.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. You
There
were
was a time
telling us
sorry.
about your TikTok.
Yeah, there was a time I was watching a TikTok, and there was this guy who was like, "Hey, I miss the days that people could just get into a situation like their parents would arrange a marriage for them. Look at me now. I'm in my 30s." I think he was 38 or something. He was like, I need somebody to arrange for me a marriage ASAP. And people are in the comment section, they are there, they're like, yeah, I think me too, me too, me too. But what was your question though? I interrupted you. Uh-huh.
So, so people were like, they they want to be arranged some marriage.
Yes, it's like everyone is like comment section was so hilarious. Everyone's like, me too. I miss those days. It's not like they even experienced them. Maybe for them, some of them it's just stories they've had. But clearly, I guess they're stuck at the point where you can no longer meet potential people, that easily. So maybe they feel
Right.
like at this point, honestly, somebody should just organize something for me. It was so funny actually.
Maybe maybe
Yeah.
some of them are just joking. Maybe some of them have been frustrated by
Yes.
relationships
Well,
they've
yeah,
had.
especially true, especially that part of frustrations. I think so too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So speaking of arranged marriages existing today,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
do you think love can grow in a relationship, or does it need to be there from the start?
That's a very interesting question. Can I tell you what some I've had some ladies say? There's
Yeah,
people who usually say there's people who usually say, you know what, just go. Like maybe somebody has been introduced to somebody. I've had ladies tell other ladies, you know what, women,
yeah.
we can learn to love. We can grow to love somebody. So you know what, just go ahead, get married to this person. You will grow into the love. Oh, you will grow to love them. You see what I mean? Like literally, I've had
Yeah,
women giving women that kind of advice. So, my okay, not maybe personal perspective per se, but I think love is important in any relationship. But I also feel like, yeah, you can grow into it. It's
interesting.
important at the start, but there's people who can grow into it, or you can grow into it.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
interesting.
You can grow into it. Oh yeah.
So,
I guess it is very circumstantial.
so,
You laugh. True.
you you
Mm-hmm.
you are you are saying that
Mm-hmm.
those women
Mm-hmm.
those women that say, you know what, just go into the relationship, you will grow to love that person with the time.
Mm-hmm.
You actually
Mm-hmm.
think that is true?
Yes, it's true. Most of the
Interesting.
times, for those circumstances when women advise women to do that, it usually is like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, maybe you've not been able to find love by yourself. Okay, so maybe
Yeah,
somebody is
yeah,
people are recommending for you certain people. They're now helping you,
yeah,
like sort of give you like mm, float some ideas or bring people closer to you or introduce, okay, the word is introduce. They're trying to introduce you to people, and
yeah,
maybe they can clearly see this guy
yeah,
has potential. You get, that's the when especially
yeah,
people give you that type of advice. Yes, when they can see like the guy can potentially like make a good husband. Maybe it's only that you have not really gotten into the love part. That's when they give that kind of advice most of the times. They're like, this person is nice. You'll just grow to love them.
but
Oh yeah.
now I'm not disputing the
Uh-huh.
argument you make that this is
Mm-hmm.
true, but I think that
Uh-huh.
in other cases it might not be, at
Uh-huh.
least not always.
Mm-hmm. Not
Yeah,
always,
I
yes.
think there is a potential that it can be a disaster.
Yes,
Yeah,
waiting to happen.
it can
Mm-hmm.
be a disaster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk into
Oh yeah.
this relationship where you're like you're hoping that you'll grow to love this person, and
Mm-hmm.
that person does not love you, or something like that,
Oh
and they
no. Uh-huh.
eventually, yeah, and I don't know, it seems to me like, I don't know, like a recipe for disaster.
You know what I have learned in my years of this whatever, trying this love thing. I feel like mm, there's no perfect way to love or to find love, or there's no manual for love, and people do it like differently. So I feel like at this point,
Yeah,
whatever works for people, yeah, you just go for it. But
yeah,
definitely with that one, it could work out, and also it can be definitely a total disaster, as you've said. So, but if you really wanna give it
interesting.
a shot, you
So,
better be sure. Like, don't just get married, honestly. Immediately, and then it doesn't work
yeah,
out, you will regret it. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I think it goes both ways, for both men and women
Mm-hmm.
and any other genders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
That's true.
speaking of that, of people getting into a relationship
Uh-huh.
mostly for economic reasons, you know,
Oh,
he has a
uh-huh.
good car, or he he has a salary, or
Mm-hmm.
what, he's doing well economically. Or
Mm-hmm.
getting into a relationship for political reasons, maybe
Mm-hmm.
as a way to
Ah,
access
I need a
positions of
wife.
power.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. People
Yeah,
obsessed with
exactly.
people who have
I mean,
families. Yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, could be
Mm-hmm.
like a man going after a woman who is you know a politician, or maybe is in a position of authority, and then use that as a way to also, like, activate his political
Mm-hmm.
career, or the other way around too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering,
Mm-hmm.
um these kind of relationships, can they
Mm-hmm.
be just as fulfilling uh as, let's say, relationships based entirely on love?
Yes. Yes and no. I think they can be fulfilling depending on whether the needs are being met. Like, for example, by the time you are identifying a person and you want to just marry them because maybe it would stabilize you enough, and people would think like it makes you a good leader because you have a family and some sense of leadership in you because you can
Yeah,
lead your own family. But also on the part of your partner,
yeah.
what was the bargain for them? Like maybe that was what you wanted, but there must have been, for them
Mm-hmm,
to have
mm-hmm,
agreed to probably either settle down with you, there must have been something they also maybe saw in you or they wanted from you. Are those two things
mm-hmm.
being met? Have you
Yeah,
Has your need been met, and has their need
right.
also been met? If each of the needs are being met, then I feel like it can be fulfilling,
Yeah.
just as just a normal relationship. But if there is a discrepancy somewhere, oh, it is not it's not gonna work out. I feel like when it comes to love, it's one of those things that sort of most of the
Yeah,
times has to be very reciprocated. If it's not, then there's always gonna be
right,
issues. Mm-hmm.
right, right. I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also agree. I think from this
Mm-hmm.
conversation, I can
Yeah.
clearly see that love hasn't always been the standard for relationships.
Exactly.
Relationships have existed for practical reasons throughout history. Could be
Mm-hmm. Yes.
economic
True,
reasons,
true.
political reasons, familial
Uh-huh.
reasons, and more.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. That's very true.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe bringing back to today, relationships
Mm-hmm.
today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you see any examples of modern relationships that function without love?
That are maybe like, yes. In my personal, from my own personal whatever experience, that the things I have seen behind the scenes. I have seen those types of I've seen those types of relationships, honestly. The love is very, very much
Yeah.
dead. No love at all. As
What
I
are the
said, you are just
examples
there
of those
because
relationships?
now maybe it's people I know personally and people might not know them. Yeah, but I know people who are doing this love out of okay, or maybe they're living with each other out of obligation. And especially when I feel like a lot of times
Yeah.
it happens when you have kids. If, for example, you are married or you're in a relationship and there's no children attached to it, it's very easy when the love is dead for people to
Yeah.
walk away. But as soon as the kids come into the picture,
Yeah.
then it becomes a different conversation and people stay for the children, even when the love
Yeah.
is not there anymore. Yeah. And others would stay for the
Right.
children and for the wealth because they don't want their property to be
Right.
split or something of the sort. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's
But it
true.
exists. Hmm.
That is so true. Yeah. Like
Which ones do you know, by
co-parenting.
the way?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. See, now people are avoiding
I
the
think
co-parenting, like in
for
the
me, it's
context.
co-parenting.
Hmm. You're
Co-parenting
co-parenting
without
when you're living
romance.
under the same roof. How does
Yeah.
it work? You're
Where there's
co-parenting and you're
no.
living under the same roof. You're like, we're not separating.
Yes. It's actually very
Wow.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this case I
Mm-hmm.
actually read about of
Mm-hmm.
some guys. So this couple had a girl, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff happen. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and they divorced
Oh no.
for some reason. And but
Okay.
the interesting part is no, I
Mm-hmm.
think they yeah. So they were living though under the same roof. And so
All
because
right.
for the guy knows
Mm-hmm.
that okay, she's done with me, I am done with her too. And so he starts bringing
Yeah.
women into the into the
Ooh.
house.
Oh
And then
no.
this woman goes banana.
Yeah, I would have assumed that would definitely happen.
What do
Uh-huh.
you think about that?
Honestly, that's very crazy. I feel like if you guys decide to divorce, maybe it's time to give each other space so that you can end up living your own lives. Because if you at some point you guys loved each other, regardless of the fact that you've already separated or divorced, I feel like there's always gonna be that feeling of maybe you might even feel jealous, like in the context of that lady, when you see that, oh, literally your partner has
Yeah.
actually moved on and now they can even bring other women over. So there would be that aspect. So if it was up to me, I'll probably say maybe just don't live together, especially if you've already even divorced. There's no need,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially because you want to move on, you want to
Yeah.
start your own life and do your own things. So if somebody wants to
Mhm.
bring over women or men, whichever, I don't want to feel like somebody's rubbing it on my face that they have moved on. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I would probably choose the piece of just being in my own personal space. Oh yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Because it doesn't,
Yeah.
honestly, it doesn't
So
add up.
have you
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Have
I mean,
I?
honestly, I would agree with you too. I would
Mm-hmm.
agree with you. And actually think like if things have fallen apart in your relationship,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh it's especially if it's gone to the level of a
Mm-hmm.
divorce, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably just much better for each one of
Mm-hmm.
you to stay in your own spaces, and then just do
True.
the visits and what and all those other kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
such that you
Yeah.
can allow each other the freedom and
Mm-hmm.
space
Yeah,
to
true.
maybe heal and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Have you heard of platonic life partners?
Hmm? No, how does that work? School me. No, that's new. Honestly, they are introducing too many things in the space. I am not ready. I've not caught up. Tell me about it.
So,
Uh-huh.
platonic life partners are basically
Mm-hmm.
uh, friends who live together
Mm-hmm.
and support each other without
Mm-hmm.
romance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh, sounds
Uh,
fantastic. Can you share the
yes.
bills? Ooh. Hmm. Wait. Does it
Yeah.
mean because we are
So
platonic life partners, I cannot now even go ahead and get married at some point? I've committed to you.
that's a good question. I don't know.
I would
I
love
think
to
you can
know.
go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah,
Like I wanted to know if
when
it's
you think,
mm-hmm.
yeah, you wanted to know what?
If it's like a lifetime commitment. You see, like with marriage, it's like this is it, this is me and you. So if for platonic, now that there is no romance and
Yeah.
whatever, is it like a lifetime commitment, or at some point I can be like, okay, I'm done with this, I can move on with my life, I want a romantic partner.
I mean, I would think that the assumption is that it is long term, as from
Huh?
the concept platonic
Huh?
life partners.
Oh, not today.
you,
Not today. No.
you
Mm-mm.
can't do without the romance package.
That's a. It's very essential. It's very important for me.
Oh
That is.
man.
I'm not subscribing.
So
Uh-huh.
fair enough though. Yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
so when you think about platonic life partners, or basically
Mhm.
those kind of relationships, do you think they
Mhm.
are a better model than traditional relationships?
You see my facial
I mean,
expression?
I know you
Nah.
yeah.
Mm-mm. Nah. Honestly, I think at this point, because things have become so, I don't know, different, I would say to each their own.
Yeah.
For example, that's what I would say, to
Yeah.
each their own. But for me,
Hmm.
honestly, yeah, let's just stick to each their own. But on a personal, my preference, just go traditional way. Mm. I'm not subscribing to any CG platonic life partner. No. So to each their own. Whatever tickles your fancy, you go for it. Yeah, that's what I would think, honestly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think they are definitely an interesting type
Mm-hmm.
of relationships to probably explore
Yeah.
and see
Yeah,
if they
for
work
people who
or
don't want
don't.
that package, the romance package, then it makes sense for sure.
Yeah,
For real,
yeah,
honestly, if somebody is not interested with that on with the romance and all that, it kind of makes sense
yeah,
to have that kind of arrangement. But anyway, I don't know in the long term how sustainable it
yeah,
is. Or
right.
they'll be out here and then we'll start saying they're cheating on their life partner, on their platonic life partner at some point. Hopefully not. When they get tired of the arrangement.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Whatever the relationship, I hope they don't get to cheat.
Yeah, for sure. True, 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 true. Everybody should stay faithful.
Yeah,
The straight
at
and the
least to
narrow
try to.
path. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
At least to try to.
Do their best. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you hinted on this a bit uh, early
Mm-hmm.
on uh, about transactional relationships. Like
Mm-hmm.
marriages of convenience. Maybe a
Mm.
good example actually is like sugar relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar relationships, sugar daddy, sugar mommy, like those
Sure.
those kind of relationships.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But do they ever get
So
married for those ones, or it's just the benefits?
exactly. So my question is, because these are
Uh-huh.
relationships, yeah. Because the point
Yes.
is, we are looking at relationships in general.
Mm-hmm.
So are these relationships then less valid because love is not at the center of them?
Good question. I think
Yeah,
they're as
marriages
valid
of
as the other
convenience.
relationships. They're as valid as the other relationships as long as everybody in this relationship is satisfied. Like whatever the
Right.
convenience you are looking for, you get it. So if somebody is a sugar baby to somebody, maybe that person needed the romance, the good times,
Wait, I've
and they
I've
get it.
I've not heard of a sugar baby.
There is sugar babies. Sugar babies and sugar daddies. Now, if you're somebody's sugar baby and he's your sugar daddy in this context, I'm saying at the end of the day, if it's mutually beneficial, I think they're also as valid because if everybody is getting what they want, maybe a sugar baby needs the money and a sugar daddy, maybe there's something they're looking for the company, the good times, and whatever, and they're getting it. Then again, at this point,
Yeah.
I feel it's as valid as just a relationship that where maybe there's love and people are feeling like, oh, I love him, she loves me, you know.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
think at the end of the day it's the benefits, the mutually beneficial whatever, the kind of
Hmm.
reciprocating that comes with these types of relationships. Whether it's love, is the love reciprocated? If it is these marriages or relationships of convenience, whatever the convenience either party is looking for, is it being reciprocated? Are they
Hmm.
receiving
Hmm.
what they bargained for? If they do receive what they bargained for, then I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Yeah. Interesting though. I mean, it appears though to me
Mm-hmm.
that we are
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of this kind of relationships growing today.
Yes.
Like
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
a lot
True.
of relationships that are becoming transactional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
actually
I
very
don't
true.
know.
It's more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think is causing
What?
that? Do you think it could be social media or dating apps that are making them become more
Ah.
transactional?
I actually think those two things that you've mentioned play a big role in these things becoming transactional. Because, for example, I think with
Yeah,
dating sites, I've had people who go there, for example, because they want to maybe experience a type of a woman. And then there's also maybe some women
yeah,
who'd go there because they feel like a certain type of man would give them a certain type of lifestyle. You get?
yeah,
And they definitely they
yeah,
look for that specific thing they're looking for, and that dating site gives them that. And then with social media
right.
also, there's also the pressure to live a certain way, to look a certain way, to do things a certain way. So I feel definitely those two
Yeah.
are a major player into how transactional these things become. Also because, for example, if I'm dating somebody and then maybe we
Hmm.
are flaunting our lives on social media, and I have a friend and they're also doing the
Yeah.
same, there's also gonna be this sort of
Mm-hmm.
comparison. You are here comparing your relationship with your friend, maybe, or the people you see online, and maybe you feel like, oh, but their partner does more for them. So you are here out competing each other. So it ends up being more transactional, honestly, than the traditional feeling of I love this person, they're my person, behind the scenes they
Yeah.
treat me better or
Yeah.
whatever. Now we are out here, we are trying to showcase the kind of lifestyles we want to live, we want to outcompete each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it ends up being more transactional.
Mm.
And how much can my partner do for me?
Right. No
Mm-hmm.
longer about you're my ride and die.
Or die. I know. Very true, very true. That one is becoming whatever of the past. Oh my God! I feel at some point, maybe our kids in the future, they'll be having this conversation, and they'll be like, "Oh, at ride or die." Oh my God, that was something of the past. We're talking about what can you give me and what can I give you, and that's it. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think clearly we
Mm-hmm.
can see all around us that relationships today are evolving
Mm-hmm.
beyond love based models.
Yes.
We are now
True.
seeing new structures emerging. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Relationships that
That's true.
doesn't fit those so-called love based
Uh-huh.
relationships.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
very true. Things are changing and they're changing pretty fast. So we need to keep up.
I know. I know.
Oh yeah. To love and find authentic love right now, I feel like at some point it's gonna be like a social currency to sort of find that type of traditional love. It will be something people will be bragging about. Huh?
Yeah.
Because it will not be so common at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
Kimaru baby, let's be real.
Uh-huh.
Can can a relationship
What?
actually
Mm-hmm.
last if there is no love?
Honestly, according to me, I feel like there needs to be some certain percentage of love. It can just be dry, dry. I don't know. Yeah, I feel
Hmm.
like, I don't know. I think love is important, honestly. Maybe
Yeah.
for some people, maybe it might last for them, but I feel for me, I feel like there
Yeah.
needs to be some element of love into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like love is sort of like part of the package.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's it. There needs to be love. It can't just be like,
I was
no. What?
so 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 a relationship cannot last without love.
According to me, my personal perspective, I feel like love
Right.
it plays a very big role in a relationship being sustainable.
Hmm.
And especially in the context of the love, we talked about
Interesting.
the outpouring love. Yeah, it's a very important thing.
uh I was
Mm-hmm.
listening to so there is this Adventist preacher in
Mm-hmm.
Kenya. You probably know her.
Okay.
She's a woman.
The controversial one. I have forgotten her name, but is it
Yeah.
Elizabeth or someone like that? Yeah, I know her. Hmm?
She was saying
Uh-huh.
you don't marry you
Mm-hmm.
don't marry to be happy or that there's no happiness in marriage.
Uh-huh.
And I was just
Uh-huh.
wondering, like, she was pushing more towards the idea that, what, marriage is not for
Mhm.
happiness or love. I was
Uh-huh.
like,
Uh-huh.
okay, what is it for, mom?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And uh-huh.
It appears to me that she would disagree with
Mhm.
you.
I think honestly, no, no, no. I honestly, that's why I
Actually, she
think
she
honest.
would agree
Uh-huh.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she would
I
agree
would
with
say,
you
yeah.
that
There needs to be love. If I don't love
no, she would
somebody,
disagree
how
with you.
and she would disagree with me. Okay, but for me, I think, as I said, there was a point I
Yeah.
made at some point that as far as love is concerned, I feel like I'm not gonna listen to a preacher, for example. I feel like not to
Hmm.
sound like rude or anything, but I feel like love does not come with any
Yeah.
manual. I'm gonna read my Bible and
Hmm.
then I'm gonna go with what
Yeah.
I feel works best for me and my partner.
Yeah.
Like that's the what I'm gonna
Yeah.
exercise in my life. Like what works for me. There is no ballpark
Yeah.
for this is how you do love, this is how you do a relationship. It differs from one person
Yeah.
to the other. I could have probably in my past loved somebody or been in a relationship with the person, and the way I would love a partner I have right now is not the same. I like the same love
Yeah.
maybe I love that person. So again, because of all these things
Hmm.
that you know all these things that play into it, then I would say like love keeps evolving depending also on who you are with, what you are
Yeah.
doing, the circumstances
Right.
surrounding your relationship. So yeah, that's why I don't think I would count on somebody's exact advice on whether on how love should exactly be done. Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's why I also
I
don't think I would advise
think I would.
somebody on how they should do love. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
What would you do
They usually
yourself?
say follow your heart. I would say follow your heart.
True.
Follow your
Yes,
heart.
exactly.
Um,
Uh-huh.
if you're in love with the person X
Mm-hmm.
and you feel they are the one you're in love with, go do your
Mm-hmm.
thing. If it makes you both happy, go for it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, please. No, I totally agree with you, by the way. I don't think there is any manual for these things. You go for whatever, wherever your heart leads you.
Oh
That's where you
yeah.
go. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
And then
Yes.
you
But when
create
you think
an
about it though,
environment. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So when you think about it though, uh
Mm-hmm.
there are relationships, just as we have discussed earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that appear not to have something like love in them. What keeps those relationships together?
The arrangement. The arrangement, yes, the benefits. And if the person is receiving whatever benefit they signed up for in the first place, if they are both receiving what they signed up for in the first place, that's what keeps them going. Because everyone
Yeah.
gets the end of the bargain. The end of
Mm-hmm,
the bargain,
mm-hmm,
yeah. Hmm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
That's how it works. That's why they'll be
Interesting.
sustainable. Hmm.
That is interesting.
I know it is.
So yeah, do you then think, since there are all these
Mm-hmm.
benefits and what and so forth, do you think we maybe underestimate the power of companionship, of mutual respect, and even shared ambition, like in relationships?
Yeah, I think we do
Yeah,
downplay it sometimes. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think
Like
it is
when you look at
downplayed
companion,
sometimes.
sometimes, just like you said earlier, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like sometimes,
What?
something you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
before is that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people like go into relationships not necessarily because they love the other person. Maybe it's just because they're feeling lonely, and so they just need a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe others just basically use relationships as a method to gain some respect and maybe other benefits that
Mm-hmm.
are associated with the relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think most of the times we never want to have that sort of conversation in the context of companionship, shared goals, ambitions, and stuff like that, because we've masked the
Hmm.
relationship into this. It's just love. That's why maybe even when we think
Yeah.
about sugar mummies or sugar babies or whatever, it will be frowned upon
Yeah.
because the construct of what a
Yeah.
relationship should be, it's love. That's why most of the times
Yeah.
people would avoid those types of
Hmm.
conversations where you think and or maybe don't play the role of
Hmm.
maybe companionship and these shared goals and whatever
Hmm.
in a relationship because you're only
Yeah.
just thinking, oh, it's supposed to be about love. And then these other things now can come. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. You know,
Yeah, but yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
we just as from what you said, the understanding, and
Mm-hmm.
even this is what I believe in, is that
Mm-hmm.
when you're in love,
Mm-hmm.
then there is a likelihood that you will be happy in that relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like uh,
Yeah.
love equals happiness. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it might
Mm-hmm.
not be maybe as simplistic as I have put it, but I would like to
Mm-hmm.
think that when there is love, there is a level of happiness that you get to have
Mm-hmm.
in that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think you can basically see, like, for example, when couples are fighting and what and all those kind of stuff, happiness is
Yeah.
out the window and stuff like that. So when you think
Momentarily.
about,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
yes, momentarily,
Uh-huh.
in
Uh-huh.
some cases permanently.
Oh no. Uh-huh.
But when you think about such a conception of
Mm-hmm.
love and happiness, and then you think
Mm-hmm.
about people who are in relationships without love, like, do
Mm-hmm.
you think such people end up being unfulfilled or feeling unfulfilled?
The ones who are not in a
Or can they
relationship
still be
and the ones
happy?
who are what?
So,
What
like,
was
people
wait, wait.
who end up
Between
in
which one? The
relationships
one who
without love.
ah and the
So,
ones who are now not in a
so,
relationship.
so the idea, yes, no,
Ah.
they are in a relationship, but
Mm-hmm.
they
Without
are
love.
in a relationship without love. You remember, you were the one that said there are relationships that exist without love. So my question
Oh,
is
because
just
love can
for those relationships, since happiness
uh-huh.
is tied to love, do these
Uh-huh.
people actually end up feeling unfulfilled, or are they still happy
They I
in
think
those
it could be both.
relationships?
I
Yeah,
think it could be both it could be both depending, because if it's this was a, like from the word go, it was a literal personal choice from the beginning, and you stick to that choice, you're definitely gonna be happy, especially if you're getting the end of the bargain. But if at some point now you start wanting more,
yeah,
the more that you're not
yeah.
receiving, so you've changed the terms and conditions, then you're gonna be
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
unfulfilled.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it could be either depending. Hey, you
very
change terms and
interesting.
conditions, then boom. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So it it appears that some relationships can
Yeah.
survive and even thrive without love. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, the dynamics are different.
Yes, exactly. Totally, totally, totally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so, do you think we have been conditioned to think of love as the ultimate goal of life?
Yes.
Because, like, even as kids, we are made to think, like, you're looking for your Prince Charming.
Knight in shining armor. Sweep me off my feet, please.
Yes.
No, I think we really romanticized love, and we were, as you said, you have been conditioned to look at it a certain way. Yeah, and sometimes I feel like, realistically speaking,
Yeah.
when you look at it in that
Mm-hmm.
one very sided way specifically, then there's also it's likely that you might have false expectations around love and what sort of
Yeah.
relationships should look
Yeah.
like, which can be very disappointing. And that's why I was also kind of think why maybe relationships and marriages are falling apart quite easily nowadays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And I also feel like actually that
Mm-hmm.
the media and pop culture has
Mm-hmm.
hugely
Yes.
influenced our
Mm-hmm.
belief that
Mm-hmm.
every relationship must be based on love. Is like
100% true.
yeah, yeah. So we've
Yes.
been made to think that that we we are chasing love. But
Mm-hmm.
what if maybe in reality what we are chasing is actually something else,
Mm-hmm.
not love? Could be
Mm.
stability, could
Ah.
be shared values.
Mm-hmm. No, honestly,
Maybe,
you're making a lot
like
of
stuff
sense.
like that maybe might
Uh-huh.
matter more.
Actually,
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. Like the love, yes, it's very important, but especially when you're looking at, for example, a more long-term relationship, and when you really want to settle down with people, I feel like, or somebody, love cannot
yeah.
just be enough. You need all these other things that you're talking about. It's like all of these things have to
Mm-hmm,
balance each
mm-hmm,
other out. The love is important, and also
mm-hmm.
these other things have to coexist with the love. So you can't just look at it like,
Right.
oh my God, I love this person. But do you have shared goals? Do you have
Yeah, yeah,
whatever it is you're looking for and you want as a person? Do you have similar interests, for
yeah,
example? Or do you support their interests, or would you
yeah,
compromise for them at some point? All these things, yeah. So
yeah,
mm-hmm,
yeah, yeah. It's like definitely, yeah. Because for some people, removing
mm-hmm,
love from the equation makes the
mm-hmm.
relationship stronger. For
Really?
others, it makes it
Yes.
weaker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
True. Oh yes. I know. That's why I was saying there's no one way of doing this thing. It's like whatever works for you. You have to
Yeah,
figure what works for you and go for it.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Clearly, though,
Mm-hmm.
love is maybe love might not be the only or at even at best might not be the only
Mm-hmm.
foundation for a successful
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
has to be
True.
something more, not just the love.
That I
There's
think that's
actually
true, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. There's this skit I came across I think on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook or maybe YouTube where
Mm-hmm.
this guy basically says you know he loves this woman very much and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
the woman was like, look, I love you too. I appreciate that. But are we going to eat love?
Mm-hmm.
Because,
I've had that a lot. I know. Love is not gonna feed us. Oh no. Oh no. Uh-huh.
yeah, so,
So
yeah,
what else?
like
Mm-hmm.
when I think about that and all this other stuff you said,
Mm-hmm.
all I just see is
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, love might not be the only or even the best foundation for a successful relationship.
Honestly, I feel it cannot be the only, but it is among the best, like the top whatever for a good
Yes.
foundation of a relationship. And then of course these other
Yeah,
things.
I agree.
All these other good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I I have a quick question. This is very personal.
I'll try and answer. I can promise. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Have have you ever been in
Mm-hmm.
a relationship that worked without love?
No. Worked without love.
Yeah.
No. But I have been in a relationship which was a one-sided love.
Hmm.
Yeah. Not entirely that there was no love,
Right.
but one-sided. Yes.
As in you were giving way more than the other person.
I'm not answering. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. That's true. Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Okay, it's fine. You don't need to answer that.
I've, al- I've already answered you. I've said for sure. Yeah, I have been in one that you give more than you receive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean, we just wanted to know, suppose, if it was, you that were giving, a bigger share and the other person was giving
Yeah,
a
and
smaller
that's why I
one
was
or something.
telling you
Anyway.
when we began this this conversation, those types of that kind of love, you end up overcompensating because this person is not pouring
Right.
into you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and can be exhausting actually.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. So,
Have you ever been in
what's the
one
biggest
yourself? What's the
uh
biggest what? Have you ever, have you ever been in, wait before you ask me? Have you ever been in a relationship that didn't have love, or it was one sided?
yeah, I think so. Yeah. I've
Which
I've
one?
been in
No love
one.
or one sided? Mm-hmm.
Um I would say both actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But I think
Interesting.
the
Mm-hmm.
one-sided one was particularly really different.
Okay. In what way?
Yeah, it left a mark, a special one,
Interesting. Oh wow. Okay.
because I had to work 10 times or 20 times harder to impress that person, and didn't work.
My lord, we are sorry. See what I was saying? When it's a one-sided thing, you have to overcompensate. You keep pouring into this thing to
Yeah,
sustain it, and it is draining. Interesting. Oh wow.
it
Okay.
is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, which was why I was telling you that I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you when you said when people find themselves in
Mm-hmm.
such a relationship, they probably
Mm-hmm.
would need to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
based on their own assessment anyway of
That's true.
what's going on. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And if it is
I
something that
agree.
can be salvaged or not. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Very true.
yeah,
Hmm. Makes sense.
yeah. So
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you about
Uh-huh.
what you think is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
myth about love, any relationships that you think people need to unlearn.
Mm. That
Yeah,
it's gonna be very blissful. Like it's like, and they lived happily ever after. Just because you love each other? Ugh.
ever
Nope.
after.
Yeah, happily ever after. Honestly, I think that's like the biggest myth about love. It's actually very unsustainable. Love, I think love comes with a lot of ups and downs because it's you are meeting this person, you gotta learn them. There's gonna be a lot of things that might change even in your relationship with time. So yeah, it's always gonna be there's gonna be good times and bad times and all that. So the bliss that they keep talking about happily ever after, it's definitely a myth. Yeah, that you need to deconstruct to be able to enjoy a relationship. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And they lived happily ever after.
After.
In fairy
Hmm.
tales.
Yes, in fairy tales only. Exactly, in fairy tales only. Doesn't happen in reality. So,
But
mm-hmm.
there are relationships that actually are really happily ever after. Honestly, I have
Mm,
a relative of mine
mm-hmm.
that I would think for them is actually that.
I don't
I
know. I
mean,
think it's
of
very
course, they might have
subjective.
had their own issues. Yeah,
Mm. No, I think that's
yeah,
kind of very subjective. Also, I think you can also have a relatively happily ever after, depending on how you handle
hmm,
your issues. Like you're going through issues in your
yeah,
relationships. How do you communicate? How do you communicate with each other? How do you have an argument?
yeah,
How do you find your way back to each other? Like it's more about how
yeah,
you even solve problems or communicate in that relationship that will determine if it will be a little bit more blissful. Or because if you don't know how to
right,
communicate and you're in an argument, it means that an argument that could have lasted a day is lasting you a month.
yeah,
So this
right,
whole month maybe there is no bliss. Yet the you could have had the bliss a day after the argument. But because you
right,
didn't know how
yeah,
probably to communicate, then it becomes that your storms become longer when they could have been shorter. So I guess also it
yeah.
depends with how you handle issues.
Interesting. So it's not a fairy tale after
Yeah.
all.
Yes, it's not. There's gonna be ups and downs, but find a way to deal with those.
Yeah. But when you think about it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
real life stories
Mm-hmm.
challenge the idea that love
Mm-hmm.
is the only foundation for our relationship or our connection.
That's true.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very true.
These
Mm-hmm.
foundations are built on different stuff. Some are built on love, some are built on money,
Mm-hmm.
some are built on political influence,
Children.
some are built on
Oh,
children.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting though. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at relationships now, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've looked
Mm-hmm.
at relationships from a historical point to our
Mm-hmm.
time today. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, what do you think about the future of relationships? Do you think we are moving toward a post love society? A society where
Yes. I think
yeah,
so. I think people, there's gonna be, I feel like in the future, there might be more marriages of convenience or relationships of convenience. You know, these things people keep
hmm,
asking other
hmm,
people at you, what do you bring to the table? It sounds like that will be a more common thing
yes,
that people will be asking in relationships.
right.
Yeah, so
Is that bad to ask in a relationship?
yeah, I think it is. I think it is
Yeah,
to ask, it is bad to ask in that direct way, because I feel like
yeah,
by the time you start dating somebody, or even as you date somebody, you should do your due diligence to find out what you actually think
yeah,
they'll bring to the table. I think, according to me, honestly,
yeah.
I think it's something that you shouldn't ask. You should be able to figure it out because you're trying to learn about this person, find out more, and find what intrigues you about them and things like those. So
Hmm.
with time, it should inform you what they definitely bring to the table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true, true.
you
Yeah,
can tell what somebody brings to the
interesting.
table without asking them. Yeah, because
Yeah,
actually that has been a
yeah, that
contentious
makes sense.
issue. Women don't like being asked that question, honestly. The people I have interacted with, they don't like
Yeah,
it. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, honestly,
So,
it
mhm,
it does appear also a little bit rude. I mean, I can
mhm. I
understand
know.
where someone
Uh-huh.
might be coming from,
Yes.
but to some extent, it sounds rude.
Mhm. Yes, which is why I'm saying you,
Yeah,
if you're dating somebody and even you want to settle down with them, that is a time when you do your due diligence and figure out what is this person bringing to the table. I probably like her because maybe she can do ABC, or I like him because he can do XYZ, whatever. So that exactly is what this person brings to
yeah,
the table. You don't need to ask them; you can see it. So why are you now asking
yeah,
them?
yeah,
And goes both
yeah,
ways for men and women. Yeah.
yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I think honestly, like when you see things like pre-nuptial
Agreements.
agreements
Mm-hmm.
and wow,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and many others. Yeah, it appears that yeah, we are seeing new models of
Mm.
relationships emerging that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
challenge
True.
the
Mm-hmm.
traditional
Mm-hmm.
love-based relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Very, very true.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
before Yeah, maybe before we wrap up, um,
Mm-hmm.
will will love always be the ideal, or do you think we will redefine relationships in the future?
They oh, whether we like it or not, they're gonna be redefined. That's for sure. Things have changed and
Yeah,
they're changing pretty fast. So they're gonna be redefined for sure. I
yeah,
don't think we can. It's like the way we embraced
yeah,
AI. It was just the other day there was no AI. And then right now we're using stuff
yeah,
like ChatGPT to do all our writing or generate ideas for different
hmm,
things. So I think it's almost inevitable.
yeah.
It's gonna be
True, true,
redefined.
true. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Because
absolutely.
also the way
Yeah,
we
and
love right
honestly,
now is also not the same way our parents
hmm,
loved. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, it's true though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting though because relationships are evolving and they are
Mm-hmm.
evolving so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing.
That's true.
I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as you look at it, um,
Mm-hmm.
it also does seem to suggest that love may not always be at the center of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is
That's
not to
true.
say love is
Yes.
not important. It is important. Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Please do love your partners.
Yes, please. Yes.
We are not advocating for people to stop loving their partners.
Uh-huh. Yes. Disclaimer. I agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would think that, in my opinion, especially from
Mm-hmm.
a very Christian standpoint, I would think that relationships should be based on love.
Yes.
Others
Mm-hmm.
might disagree with me, but that's totally fine.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I agree honestly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
after everything we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about so many things.
I know.
After everything,
Mm-hmm.
is love
Mm-hmm.
truly necessary? Or is it just, one of many ways to build a strong relationship? Is it necessary?
I think my answer would be both. It's necessary and also it's still one way to build a strong foundation for a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Yeah. And
But
if,
what do you think? Mm-hmm.
ah,
What do you think though? Is it necessary or it's just one of those?
I mean, in my opinion, I would think that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's very important to
Mm-hmm.
have love if you want to have a uniquely fulfilling and happy relationship. This is not to suggest
Mm-hmm.
that other relationship might not necessarily give you that feeling. I think they can,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
think there's just something so special about
Mm-hmm.
being in love with another person that really makes
Mm-hmm.
you, in a way, I don't know, it makes you to be so different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get to care about another person way more than you do for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Like you get to see
Interesting.
each other as just one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So, uh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, uh,
Uh-huh.
why are you laughing?
No, I'm happy to hear that. Uh-huh. Finish your
No,
sentences.
I
Uh-huh.
other relationships are valid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are absolutely valid. Um, I think
Okay.
just as we have discussed, relationships
Mm-hmm.
are built on different foundations and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that even though sometimes when people say there is no love in it, I
Mm-hmm.
think there is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely something that is love like.
The quantity might not be ideal. It's subjective.
Yes,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but there might be something there. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a final thing. Um, what is one thing you want our viewers and listeners to take away from this conversation?
Hmm. I think it's
Yeah.
love and relationships don't have a manual. So you go there and do you and work with what works for you and your partner honestly. Yeah, and keep learning because a
Hmm. Hmm.
relationship is more
Hmm.
about like learning what works for you, what works for your partner, what doesn't work, what needs tweaking and stuff like
Hmm.
that, compromising and all that. So, yeah,
Hmm.
create and build your own manual that you can work with and stick to that, yeah. That would be my takeaway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
No. Me too. Yeah. Follow your heart. Uh, whoever your heart leads you to. I hope
Mhm.
that you find happiness and fulfillment there. And
Agreed.
hopefully,
Mhm.
yeah, both of you, whoever is involved, you both find that happiness
Mhm.
and fulfillment. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, yeah. Thank you so much, Kimaru baby. Um, it was nice having this conversation
Been
with
a
you.
pleasure.
Uh,
I know. Me
thank you.
too. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, if this
Mhm.
episode sparked something in you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a
Mhm.
review, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration. Follow us on our social media platforms at the Spark It Podcast. See you next time on the Spark It Podcast with Patrick CJ and Kimaru Baby.